Dhamma sambuddhassa namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. So welcome everybody to the Tuesday night Dhamma talk and discussion. I see a bunch of names that I'm very familiar with, and I see some names that I'm not too familiar with, so I'll give my introduction like I usually do. My name is Ferox. I am a 33-year-old lay Buddhist disciple of the Theravada tradition. I took my precepts in the refuge about 5 years ago, coming up this May. And what that means is I am just a regular Buddhist disciple. I am not a monk. I am not a master or a guru or anything fancy like that. I'm just a regular Buddhist on his path. And what we do here is we follow the traditional method of Dhamma talk, followed by questions and discussion. Usually, when a monk talks, it's tradition to hold off your questions until after. When I do my talk, I like to have a discussion, and I'm not a monk, so you don't have to worry about it. I like for people to comment or ask questions as we go along. So always feel free in anything that I do, to be honest with you, not just this. But anything I do, any class that I have, always feel free to make comments or question at any time. So I was working late tonight, and I didn't even come up with a topic at all. Which is kind of usually when I do my meditation in the morning. I guess I think about something pops up into my head. Oh, maybe I should talk about this, or maybe I can talk about this or that. And today, it never popped into my head. And in the spirit of not controlling, I figured, let's just go with the flow and see where it goes. Now, I wanted to leave it up to you guys. I've done this before, only once actually. But is there any topic or anything that you guys would like me to specifically talk about? If there's not, I think I'll come up with something. But one of the things that I do in my talk is that try to follow the ways of the Theravada monks. I guess specifically the Sri Lankan and Thai. When the monks do a talk, they don't prepare, they don't write notes, they don't do anything like that. They basically just talk out of their knowledge, out of their wisdom, and not that I'm claiming to have any kind of major deep wisdom, but it's part of a training on my part that I like to do. Usually I'll just come up with a topic like forgiveness, and then I'll just go off of what I know from that. So, a couple different things. Why not? Let's do a potluck. We'll do a couple different topics. So we'll talk about forgiveness, since that was the first one that came up. Ajahn Brahm, as Denise will know because she watches his videos, he talks about forgiveness a lot. And he comes up with, there's a thing that he does called the forgiveness ceremony. And I'm trying to remember, God, it's been so long since I thought of it or listened to it that I don't really remember. But the funny thing about forgiveness is that one of the things that Ajahn Brahm says is there's no guilt in Buddhism. And guilt and forgiveness are connected in a lot of ways. When you are forgiving somebody, or when you're asking for forgiveness, your forgiveness, does that help the other person, or does it help you more? When somebody's wronged you, do you if they ask for forgiveness or they don't ask for forgiveness, does it make a difference? Does anybody feel that it makes a difference? Do you feel like that it's an injustice, that they don't ask for forgiveness, that they don't acknowledge that they wronged you, and acknowledge that it was a bad thing. The funny thing is really the forgiveness and the act itself is all in your own mind. You choose to forgive that other person, whether they asked or not, because you want to let go. You don't want to hold on. When something happens and you keep thinking about it and thinking about it and thinking about it. That's right. Ajahn Brahm talks about how Ajahn Chah would say that people who were wronged and they keep saying, "Oh, that person wronged me. That person wronged me," or "That person called me a jerk," or "That person called me this." Each time they say that in their mind, they're hurting themselves again. They're calling themselves that name again. And so the key is to let go within your own mind. When you are attached to something that happened in the past, you're not in the present. And through our practice, what we're trying to do is to always remain in the present. And how we can deal with that is we can observe our feelings and our mental states and our thoughts about whatever happened while we're in the present. There's a difference between thinking all of that and being engrossed in it, and being an observer, being back, just observing what your mind is doing. And if your mind is going to start thinking, "Oh, this person did this person did that," instead of feeding energy into it, if you're just laying back and observing, you're not feeding any energy into it. And as you observe it, all of the feelings and emotions of being hurt will fade away, because that's what all things do. All things arise, all things climax, and then all things fade away. And it's the same thing no matter if you did the harm to somebody or somebody did the harm to you. Even if it's you did the harm to somebody and you feel justified in that, I'm not going to say sorry to that person. You're still in the past. You're still allowing that to take you from the present moment. You're still allowing that to feed negative mind states, negative energy into that. So no matter what, it's all about your own mind. And the Dhammapada, it says, mind is the forerunner of all things. And forgiveness is, just like most all things, is all about the mind. Whether you feel that you need to forgive or you don't need to forgive that you wronged somebody, or whether somebody wronged you. Now that other person might not want to ever forgive you if you wrong them. And you know what? That's their thing. That's their karma. That's their energy. Negative, positive energy. That's their thing. You cannot control how they feel about you. It's just impossible. What you can do is to work out your own forgiveness, work out your own positive energy, and observing those feelings and thoughts. So even if that person to their dying day hates you and curses you, you know what you should be doing? You should be giving metta to them. When we do our metta meditation, part of what we do is we do metta for the difficult person. That is that person. Whether you've harmed them or they've harmed you, there's no there's no reconciliation at all possible, that is the person to give metta to. And metta is a large part in helping forgive as well. When you give metta to all beings, and you observe your own mind states, you come to realize the reality of things, to see how things truly are, and you come to realize that whatever they said, whatever they did, it's not up to them to make it better for you. Only you can make it better for you. That's it. Why is it so much more difficult? Well, that is because we put guilt on it. We feel bad about things, and we fixate on it, and we control it. We own it. Buddhism, the practice here, we're trying to come to the realization that there is no me, there is no I, there is no self. I don't own this body. I don't control this body. But when we have self-forgiveness, we have these feelings as me, as mine. It's my guilt, and I'm going to wallow in it as much as I want. It's my it's my action that I did, my bad action. I'm a bad person. Yes, well, that as well, definitely. So when we start to see, if you have trouble with self-forgiveness, the medicine is always the same. Analyze and observe. When you analyze and observe, when those feelings pop up, when those mental states pop up, when the thoughts pop up, and you're not putting any judgment into those thoughts or feelings. You're just observing them. You're not saying something that I used to do in the past would be like, "Oh, stupid mind. Why are you thinking that way? I told you to think this way. Or I told you to think that way. I'm supposed to forgive myself. I'm a Buddhist." And what that is feeding negativity into it. It's not observing. It's not, this thought popped up. Okay, I'm just observing it. It's just there. It just exists. Basically, yes. That's a good way to put it, Charlemagne. Yep, self-perpetuating an attachment. So, the key, as with everything, is in our own minds. We cannot make anybody do anything. We cannot make them forgive us. We cannot make them be. You can't make your husband be a better husband, or your wife be a better wife, or your kids be better kids, or anything like that. It's just not nature. So you can't make people forgive you, and you can't necessarily make yourself forgive either. You can't force yourself to forgive. It's something that when you observe, it comes naturally. And when you understand, it's something that's done naturally. It's easy. This is actions that this mind and body performed in the past. It is just action. It is not my action. It is not me. It is not myself. Now, obviously, that's also not an excuse to not have any responsibility either, because it was performed with volition. So you don't want to use that as to say, "Oh, I can go do whatever I want. It's not mine. It's not me. It's not my body. The body is just a body. I didn't do it. What you put me in jail for? I didn't do it." You can't do that either, because we live in a conceptual world, and that just doesn't work. But okay, I guess anything else on forgiveness, and we can move on. Okay. The Four Noble Truths. Anything specifically, Arturo, about the Four Noble Truths? Also, I would suggest that you come to the Basics of Buddhism class this Sunday if you can, at 9 SLT in the morning, because that whole hour is going to be about the Four Noble Truths. But we'll talk about the Four Noble Truths here as well. The Buddha, the Four Noble Truths, are the preeminent teaching of the Buddha. When you come to fully and truly understand the Four Noble Truths, you are enlightened. The Buddha stated that he did not claim to be enlightened, claim to have achieved the deathless, until he had fully penetrated the Four Noble Truths, fully understood the Four Noble Truths. All of the teachings of Buddhism fall into the Four Noble Truths. The Buddha used a simile as, just as all the prints, the footprints of all the creatures on the planet can fit into the footprint of the elephant, so too all of the teachings of Dhamma, of Buddhism, fit into the Four Noble Truths, which is very profound, very deep. And it's almost funny because the Four Noble Truths is the first thing we learn as Buddhists usually. Oh, the Four Noble Truths, yeah, that makes sense. But the whole point is to pierce the Four Noble Truths, to fully understand them, to see reality as it truly is to see the Four Noble Truths. So, what are the Four Noble Truths? First Noble Truth is I forgot. No. Four Noble Truth. First Noble Truth is dukkha. Dukkha, dukkha, dukkha. Now, what is dukkha? Most easily translated as suffering, or most widely translated as suffering. I never liked that term because dukkha is more than what we consider suffering. What is dukkha? What is dukkha is being separated from what is pleasing or appealing is dukkha. Union with what is not appealing is dukkha. So those first two. The first one, being separated from what is appealing. When we have a boyfriend or a girlfriend and we break up, that sucks. That's dukkha. We have suffering because we have attachment. Oh wait, never mind. That's the second noble truth. But so when we get married and we have a loved one and they die, whether it's young or old, is dukkha. Being separated from what we attach to, what is pleasing, what we like, is dukkha. Being stuck in an elevator with a person you hate for 5 hours is dukkha. That is union with the unpleasing, the things that you don't like, and that creates aversion. The first creates craving or attachment, the second creates aversion. And then sorrow, lamentation, grief is dukkha. Birth is dukkha. Death is dukkha. All these things are dukkha. So that is the first noble truth, is dukkha, or stress, or I like the best term as dissatisfaction, because to me, I've always felt that there was a dissatisfaction with the world. So when I first heard that term dissatisfaction from one of the monks, I said, yeah, that's exactly it for me. But if you come to the truth, the Basics of Buddhism class, when we go over dukkha in Access to Insight, there's a whole paragraph with about 30 or 40 definitions for dukkha. There's not one or two or three words that fully encompass the Pali word dukkha. And unfortunately, that's a lot. You'll find that a lot in Pali. A lot of the words and Pali do not fully translate to English very well. So, the second noble truth, the Buddha saw that there was dukkha. So, as they call the Buddha the consummate physician. So, like a physician, he saw that there was this disease. He saw that there was this dukkha. So, what is the cause of dukkha? So, the Buddha found that craving is the cause of dukkha. Attachment and craving for things, wanting things, becoming attached. Because when we become attached, we make a choice. We have greed or we have hatred. And that's all based out of delusion. You might have heard these things, the three things: greed, hatred, and delusion. Greed is about attachment. Greed is craving, because craving is like a fire that can never go out. No matter how much you want, no matter how much you get, you always want more. Always want more. So that is craving. That is the fire that can never go out. And that leads to attachment. Now, aversion is the other half of that. It's the other side. It's like the yin and the yang in a way. Aversion is the stuff that we find displeasing. We don't want anything to do with it, so we run away from it. Pain, we run away from it. Sitting in going to a meditation retreat and sitting in meditation for 6 hours. Why did I come here? I'm going to run away. Pain, we run away from it. Anything that is displeasing, we run away from. That also, in a way, is attachment. It's just the opposite coin of it. Because you're attached to running away from what is displeasing. So, when you have, and the attachment or the greed and the aversion or the hatred all stem from delusion, which is ignorance. And what is ignorance? Ignorance in Buddhism is defined as not knowing the Four Noble Truths. See how it all fits in like the elephant's footprint? And we haven't even started we haven't even gone to the third noble truth yet. So the third noble truth is, we found out what the life is. We found out what the cause is. So the third noble truth is, we got the cause. How the hell do we get out of this damn thing? This samsara, this circle, this wheel. I want to get off, pull over. So, the third noble truth is the noble truth of nibbana, or nirvana, or the deathless, or cessation of dukkha. The third noble truth is that there is a way out of this cycle of birth and death and suffering and dukkha. There is a way, and it is the deathless. So the fourth noble truth is, we found the way, then how the heck do we get there? The fourth noble truth is the noble truth of the Noble Eightfold Path. And the Noble Eightfold Path is right view, right intention, or right thought, right action, right speech, right livelihood, right effort, right concentration, and right mindfulness. And in 2 weeks, at the Basics of Buddhism class, we're going to spend 2 weeks going over all of these the eightfold path. Because it takes that long to go over it, even in just a cursory glance. So the Four Noble Truths, the truth that, when fully pierced, leads to the ending of dukkha, encompasses all other teachings of the Buddha, all other Dhamma. So it is up to us as those who are on the path to follow the path of the consummate physician, to follow the prescription, which is the Noble Eightfold Path, which will lead to the end of craving and dukkha and lead to the deathless. So that is the Four Noble Truths. Any other comments or questions about Four Noble Truths while I move on? Oh no, I'll type it. Deathless. Because when you become enlightened, there is no more birth. And because there is no more birth, there is no more death. Well, because there is no birth, there is no more old age, sickness, and death. So once you have the final body, once you are enlightened and you have the final body, and you pass into parinibbana, there is no further birth. So therefore no further sickness, old age, and death. No more lamentation. No more attachment, no more craving, no more dukkha. Yes, attachment and clinging is the same thing. Yeah. Well, I have heard it. I have heard of craving being a higher level of clinging or attachment. So, like, first it's clinging and attachment, and then it goes to craving. So you hear, technically, I guess, did I say craving for the second noble truth? I don't remember if I did. If I didn't, that's what it's supposed to be. I'm pretty sure I did, though. Okay. Okay, let's see. Explaining Buddhism to other people. I have the very, very key to explaining Buddhism to other people. You know what it is? I charge $50 for it. Then I'll tell you. Oh, never mind. The key to explaining Buddhism to other people is to live it, is to be it, to be Dhamma. That is the key to explaining it. That is the way to spread the Dhamma. That is the way to get people to notice you. That is how I get people know that I'm a Buddhist. And it's not because I talk to them about it. It's because I go to work, I go to my work, to my office in the morning, and I do my 40 minutes of meditation. And most people come to work late, so most people don't know, but the people that do come and they see me, meditating, and I've gotten like, are you sleeping? Are you okay? You're not passed out, are you? You're not dying, are you? But you get past that and people start to say, oh yeah, he's meditating. Okay. And then people start to ask questions. And that's when you talk to them. So I think about it this way. When we go to, welcome Rojo Star, good to see you. When we go to the airports or whatever, and or if we're at home, if we got Hare Krishnas, Krishna, or what's the other ones? Jehovah's Witnesses, or these people that come and they try to tell us the good news. They try to do these things, try to spread their message. What do? So get the heck out of here. You're nuts. I don't want to deal with it. I'm already this. I'm already that. I'm already, I don't want to, please. So trying to teach somebody or trying to tell somebody about Buddhism might not get you anywhere. Now I think Denise might be coming from the view of trying to show her family that she's not nuts and joined a cult and she's going to go shave her head off. I think that's where Denise's question came from. because of she's comes from a very Catholic family like I did, so I know how that is. Um, One thing that I will say is in my earlier years, um, when I was just finding it, finding my Buddhist self, and when I still had a lot of anger, and I had a lot of, and it's funny, like I never thought myself as an angry person, and I never really had angry outbursts, but when you really see, you really do see, like, oh yeah, I do have anger, I do have resentment, and this and that. And when you really start to see that, and you start to realize, like who said it? Denise or somebody said it before about how the ego, sometimes the ego doesn't realize, want to say that we make mistakes, and that's 100% true. Because you realize, yeah, I do have anger, and I realized I had a lot of anger against the Catholic religion, and a lot of the people in it, and I thought, like, oh, they're all a bunch of hypocrites and this and that, and I was almost like, you see like those like really militant atheists today, like I was almost kind of like that, but I was never overtly bad to people or mean to people or wanted to debate them and say, your God doesn't exist, you suck, or anything like that, because I always felt that that was just being like the people that I disliked. So, like, for me, that whole atheist versus Catholics thing, to me, they're both just as bad as each other. Because they can't live in peace together. No, nobody has to accept your view. And you can't force your view on other people. And that's why I say the only way to do it is to live it. My mom's a very strict Catholic person, and it almost blows my mind to the point where she has almost accepted the fact that I want to be a Buddhist monk. This is somebody who thought I was going to be a priest, who wanted me to be a priest from my earliest ages, and I was an altar boy and this and that, and it almost like, and I credit my practice with that. It's not something that I convinced my mom of. It's not something that I debated my mom over. It's just something that I guess she's come to realize, and it still blows my mind. It's like, wow, okay, but to me, that's the only way to truly show people what Buddhism is about. They might think you're a nut. They might think that you're sleeping on the job or something. What did you go to work for, to sleep? And they took a because of the smokers at my job being out all the time smoking and throwing their cigarette butts all the time and taking too many breaks. The people at that own the building actually removed all of the chairs, all of the benches, which I think is crazy. Because I used to actually meditate on those benches. So now I meditate on the floor, on the concrete by the doors, and people come in and they're like, "Now what is this guy doing?" This guy's nuts. But to me, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where I can meditate or how I meditate, just that I can meditate. I do my practice. It doesn't matter. And people see that. They know that this guy is here every day doing his practice. He's peaceful. What is what's going on with this guy? And people want to know. Like, even on my Facebook, I don't push a lot of Buddhist stuff on there. Actually, I push more political stuff on the Facebook, which I shouldn't either. I push a lot of stuff from my libertarian views, but I'm not on there like, Buddhism, yeah, my meditation rules or anything like that. It's not. It just doesn't work. People have their own lives. They have their own beliefs, their own feelings, and that is what they're going to do. It's simple as that. And this is why Buddhists don't missionary. We don't go out. We don't try to convert people, because we know that people are at all different levels and stages of the path. And some people, like the Buddha said, when he first, he said, when he first decided he wasn't going to teach,